put this video together to show the difference in the quality of lighting at several sections of the Bay Run. Now the first section's on the Canada Bay side and it's nice and open. You can see we've got the water on the right hand side there, and when you're riding around here you can see generally pedestrians contrasted against the water there, so they're not too hard to see. And on top of that you've also got regularly spaced lights on the left hand side of the road there. Now they're not ideally placed and they're not over the top of the path, but they do shed a pretty good amount of light over the path here, so you can generally see people or dogs if they're in the bike lane, so it's it's fairly safe in that section. As we come around heading towards the Iron Cove Bridge, the lighting gets even better. There's recently been work done here around Aqualuna, where more lighting's been put in, particularly on the pedestrian crossing where it's really bright. So there's pretty much no hope of hitting anyone here. You can see, you almost can't see my headlight on the road there. There's so much light coming from the overhead lighting. Now we're about to go up onto the Iron Cove Bridge in a second, and you can see that lighting here is very good. The lights on the bridge are even more closely spaced. They're putting out a good amount of lumens. It's very well illuminated. You can see a long way ahead of you. You can see people a great distance off. Then we come off the bridge and suddenly it's complete darkness. There's almost no lighting down here along the city side, the Roselle side. You can see the contrast up there. The bridge is really well lit up. Down here under the bridge it's pitch black, and you've got almost no hope of seeing people a reasonable distance in front of you. Now I've got a pretty bright light and it sheds a good pool of light in front, but even so there's, I don't know if you can see them, we are actually passing people walking in the pedestrian lane on the right hand side there. They're not wearing reflective clothing, well that person is, they don't have any lights on them, and you just can't see them. And you can see there was a person there. You could probably see silhouetted against that bicycle coming towards us. There's an exception, someone wearing a nice bright pink shirt, stands out quite well. There's someone with a headlamp, I think. They stand out, but all these other runners, you really can't see them. Doesn't matter at all though, if they stay in their lane, who cares? Bikes stay in their lane, pedestrians stay in their lane, and as long as the two don't mix, you're quite safe. You can't hit them. That's the whole idea of grade separation. Now we come down here as we're getting around towards outside Cullen Park, and this is a mixed traffic zone where vehicles are allowed in here. There is lighting. You can see the difference there with bikes. You can see bikes a mile off when they've got their headlights on, so that there's just no hope of, very little risk of running into a cyclist, because you can see them a good 100 metres away. Whereas some of these joggers, you get into the dark patches and you can barely see them 4 or 5 metres in front of you, especially if they're wearing dark clothing and don't have any reflective kit on them. But as I said, as long as they stay in their lane and you stay in your lane, you're safe. You've got spatial separation there. Again, we come around here and you can see these people are actually silhouetted against the water. And if you're looking, you can. It doesn't matter if they're all dressed in black, don't have anything reflective, no lights. You can see them silhouetted against those lights on the horizon there. But once you get in amongst the trees and you can't see the other side of the bay, or you can't see the water, everything changes. You're then completely reliant. The only way you can then see pedestrians is if they've got something reflective on, or they're staying in their lane. You don't have to worry about them being in front of you. Now what we're going to see as we come around the corner and go past the rowing sheds is we get into an area where there's solar lighting, and the lighting, I can only describe it as completely pathetic. I know it's end of life and the Inner West Council is going to replace it, but this is what it's been like for ages. This is just before dawn, and it's in February, so the days are long, the nights are short. There's plenty of sunlight. You would expect the solar panels to be generating enough light and the batteries to have enough storage for the lights to be working at this time of the morning. You can see there where the lights are working, they only cast a fairly small pool of light, and then there's big blobs of darkness in between the lights. Now we're about to hit a pack of runners, and this is where things get interesting. You can just see some reflections. Right, they're on the pedestrian path, they're on the bike path, and whoop, yep, coming out of the darkness, can barely see them. And I was yelling at those guys because what they were doing is they were racing to get to the finish line, because that's a jogging club, and they were running in the bike path to cut the corner and maybe save a few fractions of a second. And as I said, the only way you stay safe is if you're separated or you have good lighting. And so I hope that the replacement solar lights, the panels are going to be big enough, and the battery storage is going to be big enough that in winter, when there's like 1/10 the amount of solar power generation as there would be in, say, February, and the days are longer, that those lights will still be on at 5 or 6 in the morning, so you eliminate the risk of people crashing at each other running around the bay.